Chapter 57 New Discoveries in the Classic of Mountains and Seas. According to Huaxia, the trial of the last ancient civilization happened 5,000 years ago. On time, it doesn't match up at all. So, Huaxia's guess is actually wrong? The young woman looked at the group chat and fell into deep thought, but now we are faced with another paradox. No1 has passed the level. The IT means that China's ancient civilization has actually been destroyed. How did the Book of Mountains and Seas, which records the secrets of various ethnic groups, be handed down? To know, the trial of civilization is extremely cruel. If you fail, all traces of civilization will be erased and annihilated in the long river of history. This is also their mission: destroy China, and destroy all traces of Chinese civilization and prohibit any fire or inheritance from continuing. Forget it, let's not think about it for now. When the task is completed and we return to the clan, we can ask the elders again. The young woman rubbed her forehead and simply stopped thinking about it. What they have to do now, just wait patiently, develop secretly in other countries, and wait for the third round of trials to come. Then, come back to China and avenge your shame. China, Yanjing Monster Research Institute. Dean, you are finally back. Zhao Ziyan stood at the gate, welcoming Yang Mo's return. The eye in the eyes, full of admiration. Under the leadership of Yang Mo, China once again eliminated domestic monsters in advance and restored its former stability. The elimination speed is faster than the first round of trials. A full 7 days ahead of schedule. How is the situation in various countries now? Yang Mo nodded with a smile and asked. A calm voice interrupted Zhao Ziyan's thoughts. She didn't expect that Yang Mo would go straight to work as soon as he came back. After a brief period of confusion, hurry back. According to the information from the intelligence department, many countries have now found ways to identify 002 imitators. Among the chosen ones in the United States, there are one person has mastered the destroying eye. One of the divine ninjas in the Sakura Kingdom has mastered the godly eye. One of the new humans in the Gaul Kingdom. There is someone who has mastered the Eye of Truth. With the help of these abilities, the countries have successively uncovered 002 imitators among high-level officials and initially stabilized the situation, but these extraordinary abilities can only be investigated on a small scale. It is impossible to eliminate all 002 imitators. Yang Mo listened, sighed and shook his head. Just as he expected, countries have embarked on the old path of mass-producing extraordinary beings and trying to defeat magic with magic. In the past life, China is also taking this path. It's just, the final outcome proved that this road is dead, so that's how Science Fiction Heaven Project was born. What's the situation in the hospital? Is there any new breakthrough in the research on 12-sided crystals? After Yang Mo finished sighing, he continued to ask. 12-sided crystal. It was excavated from the head of the 002 imitator, but no similar crystals were found in the body of Immortal 001. It's very special. Countries have also relied on it to embark on the extraordinary path. The core technology of Demon Mirror was also discovered from it. Actually, China in the previous life went through 12 rounds of trials. However, the existence of the 12-sided crystal was only found in the head of the imitator. There is no such thing in the monsters of the other 11 races. Therefore, Chinese scientists in previous lives had speculated that the 12-sided crystal contained other secrets. Not yet. Listening to Zhao Ziyan's answer, Yang Mo couldn't help but feel disappointed, but he soon calmed down. In the previous life, China was always facing life and death crises and had no time to study the 12-sided crystal, but this time, they have successfully passed the first 2 rounds of trials, and China has enough time to study it, and if nothing unexpected happens, this round of trials will also be the perfect reward for the SSS level. Hopefully, it's another reward from the national direction. Thinking of this, Yang Mo couldn't help but murmur. In the first round, the physical fitness of the entire population increased by 100%, allowing the Chinese people to improve their physical fitness in all aspects. In addition to strength and speed, nowadays, people in China basically do not get sick, and work efficiency and infrastructure construction speed have been greatly improved. The invisible improvement to China is huge. Combined with the rewards he experienced in his previous life, the rewards from the national direction are undoubtedly the best, can lead the race to achieve an overall leap. 3 days later, with the resolution of internal and external troubles, China, the peace of the past has been restored. 1,400 million people, they are all quietly waiting for the settlement day of the civilization trial, which is the arrival of the 30th day. Dean's office. Yang Mo did not relax at all. There were a lot of sketches on the table. It's all, there are preparation plans for the Science Fiction Heaven Project. As of now, China has successfully created 2 important national weapons, the Book of Life and Death, and the Demon Mirror. but they are just the tip of the iceberg of science fiction heavenly plan, just limited by China's current technological level. More advanced comprehensive strategic platforms such as Lingxiao Palace, Tashita Palace, and Underworld cannot be created. Many core technologies can only be obtained by studying the monsters that descend for scientific and technological civilization. Their bodies are all brand new and unknown materials, their abilities are all brand new biological abilities. It can bring about technological revolutions in the fields of materials science, electromagnetics, quantum fields, physics, energetics, and other fields. This is also the key reason why the science fiction heavenly plan can be realized. We can only wait for the third round of monsters to see what new technological breakthroughs can be developed on it. Yang Mo put down the sketches and rubbed his forehead, stretched. Later, I picked up the Book of Mountains and Seas on the corner of the table and opened the monster illustrated book. Among them, there are 12 types of monsters specially marked by him. It is the monsters he has personally experienced in his previous life, including the 001 undead and the 002 imitator. Tuck 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 dash, there was a knock on the door. Dean, we have a new discovery. The office door was pushed open and Zhao Ziyan walked in, looking a little excited. Has there been a breakthrough in the research on dodecahedron? Yang Mo asked with a thought, not from the research team. Zhao Ziyan shook her head. Yang Mo was a little disappointed, but Zhao Ziyan's next words made his eyes light up. A professor who claimed to be a professor of ancient literature at Yenjing University called our college and said that he had made new discoveries in the study of the classic of mountains and seas. What discovery? He asked quickly. He said that the 12-sided crystal in the head of the 002 imitator looks a bit like something recorded in the classic of mountains and seas. Hear this, Yang Mo's heart trembled and he could no longer sit still. Stand up suddenly, hurry, and said, quick, let him come to our hospital, I want to talk to him personally. Zhao Ziyan opened her mouth and looked at Yang Mo in surprise. I have followed Yang Mo for so long. In my impression, Yang Mo has always been calm and confident. This is the first time for her, seeing Yang Mo lose his composure. Chapter 58 12-sided crystal, immortal tree, Queen Mother of the West. Half a day later, an old professor with glasses and gray hair walked into Yang Mo's office under the leadership of Zhao Ziyan. Dean, he is the discoverer, Professor Feng Xingchen of Yenching University. Zhao Ziyan gave a brief introduction. Yang Mo raised his head and looked at the old professor in front of him seriously. Same, the old professor was also looking at him. I didn't expect the dean to be so young. Feng Xingchen was a little surprised. He thought Yang Mo, who single-handedly created the Book of Life and Death and the Demon Mirror, two of the most important weapons in the country, are the same age as him. You called before and said that you made new discoveries in the classic of mountains and seas? Yang Mo chuckled and asked straight to the point. In previous lives, Chinese scientists have gained a lot of inspiration from the Book of Mountains and Seas, and finally concluded that it is a civilization trial instruction manual left by the ancient ancestors, but time is limited. Many mysteries in the classic of mountains and seas have never been revealed. Therefore, only after he was reborn would he reveal the secrets of the classic of mountains and seas to the public. I just want to use the power of all China, deciphering the classic of mountains and seas, get a lot of information about the civilization trial from it. So I get so excited when I hear about a new discovery. Not bad. Feng Xingchen nodded and didn't show off. Said, I have been studying the Book of Mountains and Seas during this period, and found one of the items that looks very similar to the dodecahedron picture published by the Institute. Said with. He took out an ancient book from the bag he carried with him. It is the Book of Mountains and Seas. This book is very old, and it is a bit pulpy after he turned it over. Actually, I was inspired by the monster 001 undead that came in the first round. He laughed at himself and said while flipping through the book, specially focus on research, it was placed on the record of immortality in the classic of mountains and seas. Speaking of which. He paused for a moment and stopped browsing. My finger pointed at a passage in the Book of Mountains and Seas. There is a country of immortality, whose surname is A, and sweet wood is food. Yang Mo and Zhao Ziyan stepped forward. The expression moved slightly. The rumor of the immortal kingdom is quite famous in the classic of mountains and seas. Rumors, people in a certain area rely on an immortal tree and eat its fruits to live forever, so it is called the immortal country. But what does this have to do with the 12-sided crystal? Zhao Ziyan blinked, a little confused. In her spare time from work, she would also read and study the classic of mountains and seas. I also know the rumors of the immortal kingdom, but it seems to be incomparable with the 12-sided crystal. I thought so before. Feng Xingchen laughed loudly and continued, until I noticed several magical things in the Book of Mountains and Seas. Immediately afterwards, Dai in front of Yang Mo and Zhao Ziyan, he turned the pages continuously and pointed out several miraculous objects in the classic of mountains and seas. Danmu, a kind of plant, has yellow leaves and bears red fruits, which you can eat without hunger. Yegu is also a kind of plant. Its leaves are like grains, but they are actually large. Like a melon, it is red and black. If it is eaten, it can resist fire. Shatang is a tree with a shape like a tang, with yellow flowers and red solids. Its taste is like a plum but has no seeds. It can resist water. The holy wood mandui grows in the west of Kunlun. Its fruits are edible. It can make people sage and wise, that is, increase their wisdom. Gangchao, its leaves are like sunflowers and its red stems are white flowers. The jujube fruit is actually like a peach, its leaves are like jujubes, yellow and red, and it can keep people energetic forever if they are eaten. Br Peach listened to Feng Xingqian's story as Zhao Ziyan became more and more confused as she listened. These things were indeed magical, but she still didn't understand the connection between them and the 12-sided crystal. It's an immortal tree. Yang Mo's expression moved slightly and he quickly reacted. Yes, it's the immortal tree. Feng Xingqian was surprised. He didn't expect Yang Mo to realize it so quickly. He is worthy of being the first person to discover that the classic of mountains and seas is a guidebook for the trials of civilization, that's it. Yang Mo suddenly realized and murmured, the 12-sided crystal is the seed of the immortal tree. Dean, Professor, what are you talking about? Zhao Ziyan looked at it blankly. The two of them were still in a state of confusion. How, suddenly the 12-sided crystal found in the monster's head became the seed of the immortal tree? What does this have to do with the various magical items in front? For a while, she just felt that her brain capacity was too small and she could not keep up with the rhythm of Yang Mo and Feng Xingqian. You have been studying the classic of mountains and seas during this period, so you should know about the Queen Mother of the West, right? Yang Mo smiled slightly and looked at Zhao Ziyan. Zhao Ziyan nodded. The Queen Mother of the West, the true god of Taoism, located in Kunlun Mountain. It was first recorded in the classic of mountains and seas. It has a very high status in the myths and legends of later generations. He is also one of the 5 tribes, belonging to the God clan. Yang Mo nodded and said solemnly, he is extremely terrifying, and he brought a heavy burden to the ancient ancestors. The Queen Mother of the West is one of the monsters. Zhao Ziyan covered her mouth in disbelief. That's true. Feng Xingqian was also surprised by Yang Mo's inference, but still nodded. Before the Preqin dynasty, ancient Chinese documents regarded the Queen Mother of the West as a fierce god, and was later gradually beautified into an orthodox god by successive dynasties. He is an expert in the field of ancient documents. Know the power of time. Many of the images in ancient documents have lost their true colors as they evolved to this day. The appearance of the Queen Mother of the West is described in the classic of mountains and seas. She looks like a human, with a leopard tail, tiger teeth, good at howling, and a shaggy hoopoe. There is no trace of human characteristics. I remember that it was recorded in the classic of mountains and seas that the Queen Mother of the West had mastered the elixir of death. Zhao Ziyan recovered from the shock and couldn't help but guess, is it the elixir of death? Does it grow from an immortal tree? Feng Xingqian nodded with a smile. A childlike expression. Yang Mo took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, not only that, the classic of mountains and seas also records that the Queen Mother of the West used immortal trees as a basis to cultivate many varieties, including flat peaches, jelly, fire jujube, redwood, leaf grain. The seeds of the immortal tree have exactly the shape of 12 sides. Hear this. Zhao Ziyan took a breath of air and finally woke up. No wonder, Yang Mo would say that the seeds of the immortal tree are exactly the 12-sided crystal. They are not only similar in appearance, the functions are also quite similar. Based on it, those magical plants cultivated actually have strange abilities. Just eat it, you can master various powers out of thin air. After a while, Zhao Ziyan recovered from the shock and said excitedly, since the 12-sided crystal is a seed, if we plant it in the soil, can it produce the flat peaches, crosspears, and fire dates in myths and legends? Br Yang Mo. Chapter 59. It's terrifying to think about it. The layout of the monster. Listen to Zhao Ziyan. The corners of his mouth twitched a few times. God is so planted in the soil, although the immortal tree can cultivate many extraordinary plants. But who is the Queen Mother of the West? How could you use such a simple and unpretentious method of planting soil? I guess that the method of the Queen Mother of the West is most likely to place the seeds of the immortal tree in the human body, absorb the nutrients of the human body, use it to grow, and finally produce a harvest. Br Fengxingchen frowned and made a surprising guess to In the Classic of Mountains and Seas. There is no detailed description of the cultivation process of Queen Mother of the West. All I know is that the Queen Mother of the West lived secretly in Kunlun Mountain and used it as a stronghold to cultivate many immortal people. The immortal people. It happened to be that they became immortal after eating the fruit of the immortal tree. Fruits or seeds? Yang Yimo murmured softly with half-squinted eyes. An ancient secret quietly surfaced. It makes people think deeply. What happened to our ancient ancestors seems to be happening again on Earth today. Nothing more. The ancestors were bewitched and controlled by the Queen Mother of the West, so they were willing to serve as immortal people and became the vessels for cultivating many magical plants, but the countries on the Earth. But they chose the 12-sided crystal themselves and regarded it as the secret key to unlocking the path to transcendence. Crystal is a conspiracy? Zhao Ziyan took a breath of air and gradually understood. A look of horror on his face. It's most likely a conspiracy. Yang Yimo nodded solemnly, his expression becoming more solemn. The monster not only wants to destroy all civilizations on the Earth, but also wants to use the 6 billion people on the Earth to cultivate what they call seeds. The final wave of harvest. Although I don't know the purpose of the monster, but there is no doubt about it, what is good for monsters will never be good for human civilization. Fortunately, our country has not started the extraordinary experiment of 12-sided crystals. Zhao Ziyan patted her chest, looking frightened. Ahem, I've told you everything I know. Fengxingchen on the side saw the two of them discussing, and said wisely, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Professor Feng, your discovery is of vital importance to our country. Yang Yimo turned around and said, thank you for your contribution. If you find out, be sure to contact me as soon as possible. Said. He took out one of his business cards and handed it to the other party. That's for sure. Fengxingchen accepted the business card carefully and later, under the leadership of Zhao Ziyan, he left the institute. After a while, Zhao Ziyan returned to the office. Can't wait to ask for instructions, Dean, let's now change the research direction. Yang Yimo pondered and quickly made a decision. Since monsters are so eager for the seeds of the immortal tree to blossom and bear fruit, then we will do the opposite, use monsters as nutrients to cultivate the seeds of the immortal tree. I want to see what it will grow. Zhao Ziyan was slightly stunned. I reacted immediately and my expression became brighter. Same day. Lab. After being inspired by the Classic of Mountains and Seas, the research direction of dodecahedral crystals has been recorrected to researchers. Following Yang Mo's guidance, a 12-sided crystal was selected to focus on cultivating. A separate cultivation warehouse was established. Put the monster corpses captured in the first and second rounds of the civilization trial into it. Acts as nutrients. Then, something strange happened. Under the gaze of all researchers, a monster's corpse melted like ice and snow, swallowed up by the 12-sided crystal. Not even the bones and dregs are left. Inside the cultivation warehouse, the 12-sided crystal shimmered with red light, becoming more and more eerie. It really works. Yang Mo's heart moved and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Next. In the strange red light, the second monster corpse was once again devoured completely. The third statue, the fourth statue, the red light flourished, filled the entire cultivation warehouse. Dean, it has already devoured 6 monster corpses. Zhao Ziyan swallowed. The swallowing speed of the 12-sided crystal is amazing. It's like a person who has been hungry for several days suddenly sees a table full of people in Han Chinese. How many monsters do we have in stock? Yang Yimo took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. Excluding research consumption, there are still 98,001 undead in the first round, and 87,002 imitators in the second round. Zhao Ziyan immediately replied as she knew all her treasures. Among them, there are 37 corpses of second-level undead and 71 second-level imitators. Keep a few for research, and put the rest into the cultivation warehouse. Yang Yimo pondered for a few seconds, and once again made an astonishing decision. He plans to swallow and absorb all these more than 100 monsters with the 12-sided crystal. The words just fell as Zhao Ziyan and the researchers next to her were full of surprise. Zhao Ziyan's face was full of anxiety and she said worriedly, Dean, if you continue to train like this, you won't grow anything terrible, right? Yang Yimo waved his hand, said in a deep voice, if we don't understand the nature of the 12-sided crystal, it will always be a hidden danger to human civilization. He sees things very clearly. The 12-sided crystal is the layout of the monster. Instead of letting it detonate naturally, it is better to detonate it yourself in advance. At least, the initiative will be in the hands of China. Let's take action. Yes. Zhao Ziyan and others looked at each other. They all felt Yang Mo's determination and said no more, took action immediately. 3 days later, there is still 1 day left before the second round of trials is settled. Dean's office, as of yesterday, all small countries in the world have lost control, and only the remaining 52 countries have controlled the situation. Zhao Ziyan was making daily reports as usual, but the situation in many countries is not optimistic. As the trial progresses, global situation more and more confusion. The small countries are all controlled by 002 imitators. Only 52 countries have maintained their basic base and are desperately suppressing the 001 undead and 002 imitators within their borders. Maybe it was stimulated by China. The United States has achieved amazing results with the help of the chosen one. Number of monsters suppressed, ranked first in the world. The United States just held a press conference this morning and decided to launch the Chosen People's military plan and establish an army of the Chosen Ones. Zhao Ziyan paused and then reported, Sakura Country, Gull Country, White Bear Country and other countries subsequently stated that they would continue to follow up on the New Humanity Project, the God Ninja Project, and the Super Soldier Project. They really took this step. Br Yang Mo put down the Book of Mountains and Seas in his hand and sighed softly, same as the previous life. In order to cope with the crisis of monsters, all countries are desperately developing extraordinary ways. I wish all the people could be extraordinary. How is the experiment with the 12-sided crystal going? Currently, 90 monster corpses have been swallowed. The crystal's light is becoming more and more brilliant, and the energy coefficient has increased 8 times. The remaining not found. Hear this. Yang Mo frowned slightly. The mystery of this crystal exceeded his imagination. Eat 90 corpses, there is still no obvious change, keep feeding. He ordered and continued to lower his head to study the classic of mountains and seas. Chapter 60, Trial Settlement, Perfect Evaluation. Again, after this incident, he became increasingly aware of the importance of the classic of mountains and seas. As a civilization trial manual left by the ancestors. It records the secrets, layouts, backup plans, and methods of clearing many monsters. It's just, many things are expressed in a vague way. Dean, since the ancient ancestors left us an instruction manual, why did they write the key information so obscurely? Zhao Ziyan on the side pouted and couldn't help it. Complained, for example, last time. If Yang Mo and Feng Xingchen hadn't explained it, she wouldn't have been able to figure out that the 12-sided crystal was the seed of the immortal tree. Maybe it was scattered and confused during the long history when it was passed down by future generations. Yang Mo said casually while flipping through the book. After all, the classic of mountains and seas has gone through a long time. It has been passed down since ancient times. After countless people's inheritance and revision, it became the current version. Is it possible that the ancient ancestors did not pass the trial? Zhao Ziyan blinked her eyes and guessed wildly, they were destroyed by monsters, in order to save the lives of future generations. I didn't want to make the same mistake again, so I kept the Book of Mountains and Seas and was worried about being discovered by monsters, so I disrupted and reorganized it. Impossible. Yang Mo shook his head. In the past life, countless scholars have passed the study of the classic of mountains and seas, lots of evidence found. They all point to the ancient ancestors who passed the trial, and the habit of destroying civilization with monsters. If the ancient ancestors were destroyed, the Book of Mountains and Seas would not be handed down no matter how disrupted it was. That's because when later generations compiled and passed down the classic of mountains and seas, they accidentally made it confusing, such as those people from Jisha Academy. Zhao Ziyan seemed to have something to say. Satori, holding his chin and affirming. Do you still know about Jisha Academy? Yang Mo raised his head and looked at Zhao Ziyan in front of him in surprise. If he remembers correctly, Zhao Ziyan seems to be a graduate student majoring in science, not in the liberal arts field, of course. Zhao Ziyan held her head high and felt quite proud. I have checked a lot of historical information recently. The classic of mountains and seas first appeared in Jisha Academy. It was excavated and discovered by a group of scholars from Qi State. It was compiled into a book and passed down to later generations. I think it is most likely that they confused the Book of Mountains and Seas when they unearthed it. It is rare for Yang Mo to do so. Watch with admiration. She quickly gathered her thoughts and told her new guess. It shouldn't be a problem with Jisha Academy. Yang Mo chuckled lightly and denied her guess. Why? That's Jisha Academy. Yang Mo's eyes were deep and he said quietly, 2,500 years ago, China, the best people on earth are all concentrated there. Zhao Ziyan was slightly stunned. Next, Yang Mo read out a long list of historical celebrities. Mencius, Xunyu Kuan, Zhou Tianpin, Shenzi, Jizi, Jijin, Wanzi, Pang Meng, Yin Wenzi, Tianba, Ershua, Lulianzi, Zhou Xuanzi. They all came from Jisha Academy. There are hundreds of schools of thought. The fields studied cover politics, economics, military, philosophy, history, education, ethics, literature, astronomy, geography, calendar, mathematics, medicine, agriculture, etc. Subject, Yang Mo murmured, showing a look of fascination. That ERA to IT makes people yearn for it. The academic brilliance bloomed will shine through the ages, IT can be said. This is where 100 schools of thought contend. It was also during this period Chinese civilization has experienced explosive development, and ideas and academic achievements in various fields have emerged one after another, so much so, many people in later generations regret it. If the feudal system at that time had not been too backward, China 2,500 years ago might have started the Industrial Revolution and entered the era of science and technology. With their academic level and ability, it is unlikely that they would make the mistakes you mentioned. Yang Mo calmed down and said with a smile. Jisha Academy, were you so awesome before? Zhao Ziyan swallowed, unable to hide the shock in her eyes. She didn't expect it. This school, founded by Qi State during the Warring States period, actually affected the progress of Chinese civilization. Time passes, the second round of civilization trials finally reached the last date. I am the sky. A majestic voice, like Hong Zhangdalu's voice, suddenly sounded. It shocked countries all over the world. The second round of civilization trial is officially over. The performance of various civilizations in the second round of trials is now settled. Chinese civilization has successfully eliminated all monsters in the country. It has performed extremely well. It has been evaluated as SSS level and will be rewarded with a stone tablet. American civilization successfully killed 763 monsters, and the number of remaining monsters in the country is 887. It performed well and was rated S level. American people will permanently receive a 30% physical bonus. The civilization of Gaul has successfully killed 431 monsters, and the number of remaining monsters in the country is 1287. The performance is average, and the evaluation is a level. The people of Gaul will permanently receive a 10% physical bonus. The civilization of Sakura Kingdom has successfully killed 327 monsters, and the number of remaining monsters in the country is 1,326. The performance is average, and the evaluation is A level. The people of Sakura Kingdom will permanently receive a 10% physical bonus. The civilization of Bangzi country has successfully killed 96 monsters, and there are 2,479 monsters remaining in the country. The performance is extremely poor, rated as D level, and the people of Bangzi country will permanently receive 1% physique. The remaining 134 civilizations have lost their sovereignty and will no longer receive rewards in future trials. Next, the gray fog that enveloped the earth surged. There seems to be invisible light falling from the sky, subtly reforming the physique of people from all over the world. There is also a bright meteor that shoots out from the vast gray fog and lands towards the east. The United States, Department of Defense. Only an S-level rating? Jobs felt the increase in power within his body, but he was not very satisfied. These days, the United States has launched the Chosen One project frantically, and has created 150 Chosen Ones with the help of 12-sided crystals. The number of monsters hunted also reached an astonishing 763. But it only received an S-level rating. When the rewards from the first two rounds are added up, they are even worse than the rewards from China's first round. It seems that we must find a way to eliminate the monsters in the country before we have a chance to obtain an SSS level evaluation. He half squinted his eyes and began to think. At least, they have to find a way to deal with the 001 undead first. According to Huaxia's research, point 001, after the undead reaches the second level, they have the ability to infect and can transform one human being into the same kind every day. The 002 imitator is scary though, but their number cannot be increased by killing one by one. China is still rated as SSS level perfect this time, but instead of rewarding the general physique, it is a stone monument. Subsequently, he focused his attention on Huaxia again, with a look of surprise and uncertainty.